A new round of direct Lebanese-Israeli talks has begun in Rome under U.S. mediation, with discussions focusing on implementing the ceasefire agreement, expanding the pilot zone in southern Lebanon, the withdrawal of Israeli forces from disputed positions, and the future of Hezbollah's weapons. While Lebanese officials insist that they remain committed to the ceasefire, Hezbollah has strongly rejected the negotiations, calling them a step towards normalization. Talks come amid continued Israeli military activity in southern Lebanon and growing international pressure to prevent another escalation along the border. Meanwhile, Russia has launched one of its largest missile and drone attacks on Kyiv in recent months, killing civilians and causing widespread destruction across the Ukrainian capital. The attack has triggered renewed international condemnation, while the European Union has responded by releasing another 1.4 billion euros generated from frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. The latest escalation comes as both sides continue long-range strikes, with no indication that the conflict is moving towards negotiations. I'm Hala Al-Hamalawi. Let's get in focus. According to the Times of Israel, Israeli and Lebanese delegations have launched a new round of U.S. broker talks in Rome aimed at strengthening the ceasefire reached after last year's conflict. The discussions include security arrangements along the Blue Line, Israeli withdrawal from remaining positions inside southern Lebanon, and mechanisms to reduce tensions. The report notes that Hezbollah has fiercely opposed the negotiations, accusing the Lebanese government of moving towards normalization with Israel, while Israeli officials argue that the talks are intended solely to improve security and prevent renewed fighting. The negotiations are taking place with active U.S. involvement and international support, although major disagreements remain over Hezbollah's military presence and Israel's continued attacks in southern Lebanon. For more analysis, we're joined from Beirut by Mr. Fawzi Boudiab, writer and political analyst. Welcome to In Focus, sir. Mr. Boudiab, what makes this third round of Rome talks different from the previous rounds?
Thank you for having me. Of course, this round is different because it comes after the visit of President Aoun to the U.S. and meeting with the U.S. President Donald Trump, not to mention his visit to Turkey and meeting President Erdogan, as well as the phone call between him and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. All these factors and all these talks that took place in the past few days give this round a special nature, given that it is one of the first visits to continue the implementation of the framework agreement after the first round of the pilot zone in eastern Zautar Ghainduriya and the third zone adjacent to them, where the Lebanese army was deployed and the Israeli army withdrew.
Mm-hmm. And how would you assess the progress achieved so far in the negotiations, sir?
This is the seventh round yesterday, and today it did not achieve anything additional, but it highlighted a very important point today, because yesterday, as far as we got information from the presidency, that yesterday wasn't very fruitful, but today the negotiators were able to get certain results after demonstrating the border issue, drawing the borders between Lebanon and occupied Palestine and discussing points of contention, especially the blue line that was determined in 2006 according to Resolution 1701. And this is a positive indicator that there is an American pressure, American commitment to the fact that Israel would not remain within Lebanese territory, because the way that Israel has been dealing with this has been acceptable, and it aligned to past negotiations when Martin Lortecos was the U.S. Commissioner and tried to reach certain achievements before 2024 in regards to borders. But the second point that was not agreed upon or understood in an adequate way despite American pressures is the second experiment of expanding the pilot zones, where Lebanon showed the importance of withdrawing from Nabatea and the areas around it, as well as Al-Khiyam city, for very important factors in both points. The Israeli delegation did not want to discuss this point, and this was another setback, because this meant that Israel is trying to reset their conditions, and they wanted to say that the withdrawal is not temporal, but had to do with assessing the results and disarmament of Hezbollah, and an international assessment for the results achieved by the Lebanese army when it comes to containment of arms or destruction of arms, or making sure that Hezbollah cannot rebuild its facilities in the areas under the Lebanese army's control. This is a point that took further discussion. And I believe that what both parties reached was that Italy is going to be in control of assessing and supervising the implementation of the deployment of the Lebanese army, and making sure of its capabilities and its control, and the lack of capability of Hezbollah to rebuild its facilities in the area. And Italy is agreed upon by the United States, Lebanon, and Israel. It's a trilateral agreement. And in that context, the phone call took place today between the Italian foreign minister and the Iranian foreign minister, where the Italian foreign minister said to his Iranian counterpart that Iran is committed or has a large role in containing or maintaining the ceasefire, and to convince Hezbollah to commit to the agreements reached by the Lebanese state in this context.
Mm-hmm. Sir, now Israeli officials say that the talks focus on expanding pilot zones. What exactly does that mean, and could it reduce tensions in your own opinion?
Yes, this point in particular was mentioned in the framework agreement. These are areas agreed upon by both parties under American supervision, where the Israeli army would withdraw from parts that were occupied, and then the Lebanese army would replace them and would make sure that there wouldn't be any rebuilding of Hezbollah's capabilities in these areas. And this would contribute to starting of getting back displaced peoples. And this is the point that I was speaking about. And Israel wanted to assess the results of this first phase, first round that happened when President Aoun met the American president, and Israel withdrew from western Zawtar, from Ghandouriya, and a third adjacent area. The Lebanese army was deployed there, and the population returned, despite the fact that these villages were completely destroyed. But since the population came back to the area, and the Lebanese army is there right now, and there's a ceasefire over there, this is considered a success. However, Israel still wants these areas to be assessed by a third party before expanding these pilot zones or other pilot zones. And this is another sense of what is considered redeployment, so that Israel wouldn't say that it withdrew or redeployed from this village. It was agreed upon that these pilot zones would have some kind of security, between parentheses, achieved by Israel through the fact that the Lebanese army would commit to the arrangements of security that Israel would have done, which is prohibiting Hezbollah from getting back to these areas next to the borders. This is what pilot zones mean. And this was agreed upon in the framework agreement, and it was discussed yesterday in Rome. They discussed expanding the area of these pilot zones from 3 zones to 5 zones, and gradually up to infinity, until all these Israeli forces withdraw completely.
Mm-hmm. Hezbollah has strongly rejected these negotiations. How much influence can its position have on the talks' outcome?
In reality, up to now, what we see from Hezbollah when it comes to their positions, these are just media positions, because on the ground it is clear that they commit to the ceasefire that was demanded by the Lebanese army 3 weeks ago. And maybe once or twice there were some infringements. Hezbollah rejects the negotiations, direct negotiations, categorically, and says also that they refuse pilot zones. But on the ground, in real life, this is contrary to reality, because the Lebanese army doesn't want to confront Hezbollah militarily. They don't want to enact force against Hezbollah, but on the other hand, there were discussions between Hezbollah and the state, and it was agreed upon that Hezbollah would not get into the pilot zones that are now under Lebanese army's control. Also, the facilities, the military facilities in western Zawtar were disassembled.
Mm-hmm. One of the main issues is Israel's withdrawal from the remaining positions in southern Lebanon. How realistic is progress on this file?
There was no progress in this discussion because it changed from demanding a timeline from the Lebanese army and consecutive arrangements for this withdrawal in coordination with the Lebanese state and the U.S. Israel rejected this completely and considered that any withdrawal is connected and tied to assessing the results of the pilot zones, and this assessment must be unbiased and objective. That would guarantee to Israel that Hezbollah would not be able to rebuild its military capabilities. The Lebanese army also rejected that Israel would have the right to have any kind of control or surveillance or intervention once in a while to make sure that there wouldn't be any threats, according to them, from Hezbollah against their border. So this point in particular, this gradual withdrawal, sees a few obstacles, and the U.S. is trying to reassure the Lebanese side that they are studying the security arrangement issue and reassurance of Israel when it comes to security in that context. And this is why I said that the phone call between the Iranian and Italian foreign ministers puts Iran in a certain position in these negotiations, which is a point of commitment, executive commitment, because there are good relations between Iran and Italy. There's a lot of understanding between both. So having pressure from Italy on Iran in order to pressure Hezbollah, this was in order to achieve this assessment and to make sure that Hezbollah commits to withdrawing from areas where the Lebanese army is deployed, which reassures Israel indirectly in order to withdraw from southern Lebanon.
Yes.
And what it really shows that that Israel is going to withdraw, despite all the slogans said by Netanyahu, is the meeting where borders were drawn. That showed that Israel also has a plan for drawing the borders. They have justifications. They have some weak arguments when it comes to the 13 points of contention on the blue line between the borders claimed by Lebanon and the ones that are claimed by Israel. And these are just a few meters. They're not vast areas or anything. And discussions in that meeting were reassurance from the Lebanese side. And there's flexibility from the Israeli side in that area because there isn't really any strong argument for their claim. So this is what is considered by the Lebanese side an achievement. And I guarantee that Israel is not going to remain in the Lebanese territories, as in they don't have any biblical claims or historical claims to these areas, as often is the rumor.
The future of Hezbollah's weapons continues to dominate the diplomatic discussions. Is there any realistic path towards addressing this issue politically?
Up to now, there isn't any mechanism, executive mechanism regarding this point. There are proposals by Lebanon and there are slogans by Hezbollah that they are committed to implementing, which is negotiations for national security, and Hezbollah must have a role in this framework under a certain slogan used by past governments, which is a people, an army and resistance, which gives this status for Hezbollah within the Lebanese government, just like Al-Hashd in Iraq, for example, and other Iranian proxies. And the Lebanese constitution, however, rejects such a slogan. The constitution is very clear on this. The Lebanese army controls all Lebanese territories and is the one responsible for defending Lebanese territory and sovereignty using their own power, and there is no legitimacy for any arms outside the security institutions.
Yes.
So this text that is being held by Dr. Nawaf Salem and by President Aoun is putting Hezbollah in front of a reality that arms cannot be outside government security institutions. There was an initiative proposed by Egypt earlier, which was under the title of containing arms rather than disarmament.
Yes, yes.
And the main point there was that the state-of-the-art heavy arms are going to be withdrawn from the Lebanese territory to Iran, just like what happened with past arms in the Lebanese war, when militias renounced their weapons and gave them up.
Yes, I got your point, sir. Thank you so much. From Beirut, that was Mr. Fawzi Boudiab, writer and political analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights. Now we move to the recent developments of the Russia-Ukraine war. Stay tuned. According to The Guardian, at least 17 people were killed after Russia carried out a massive overnight missile and drone attack targeting Kyiv and several other Ukrainian cities. Ukrainian officials described the barrage as one of the most intense attacks in recent months, with significant damage to residential areas and critical infrastructure. President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized allies for delays in supporting Patriot missile interceptors, arguing that faster deliveries could have prevented civilian casualties. He also called for tougher sanctions on Russia, particularly targeting its ballistic missile production, while urging greater support from the G7 and the European Union. European leaders, including European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and French President Emmanuel Macron, condemned the attack, accusing Moscow of deliberately targeting civilians and pledging additional sanctions alongside continued military support for Ukraine. Meanwhile, the European Union has approved the release of another 1.4 billion euros in military assistance for Ukraine, funded through profits generated from frozen Russian sovereign assets. And for more analysis, we're joined by Dr. Pavel E. Felgenhauer, a Moscow-based defense analyst. Welcome, sir, to In Focus. Now, Dr. Felgenhauer, Russia has launched another large-scale strike on Kyiv. What message is Moscow trying to send with this escalation?
Well, in recent months this year, Ukraine has been hitting targets deep inside Russia. Oil refineries, the retail facilities of one of the most popular Russian equivalents of Amazon. And Russia is hitting back, so this is a kind of tit-for-tat escalation, reminiscent of what happened in the 80s in the Iraq-Iran war in the Gulf. Both the war of the cities, both sides hitting each other, and also the war escalating in scope. The Black Sea right now and the Sea of Azov has become increasingly a place where both sides are attacking each other's shipping in oil, and also, of course, in grain and cooking oil, which is very important for the Middle East, because in Africa, because a lot of the grain that is consumed there and sunflower oil come from Ukraine and from Russia. And right now, grain prices inside Russia are dropping dramatically because exports are being curtailed. And for many, most likely in Africa, that means higher prices or maybe even famine. So this is an escalating conflict, and there's a prospect of it escalating further.
Yes. Well, Ukrainian officials say that they failed to intercept any Russian missiles during the latest barrage. What does that indicate about Russia's evolving tactics?
Well, Russia has been using ballistic missiles against Ukraine beginning from day one of the war. That's 4.5 years ago. And Ukraine didn't have any ways of preventing such attacks. Then Ukraine acquired some Patriot batteries and some PAC-3 Patriot interceptors that can intercept ballistic missiles. But again, the efficiency of the Patriot PAC-3 system against ballistic missiles is, well, it's not 100% at all. And now Ukraine has run out of, if not fully, but has a problem of having not enough PAC-3 interceptors, which are produced only in America. And of course, a lot of those missiles have been consumed in the war in the Gulf, again, between America, Israel, and Iran. And that means Ukraine cannot really hit down much missiles. It couldn't do that before, too, though Ukraine has developed very good capabilities to shoot down Russian drones. They can do that on their own, and they're effective there, but not on missiles. This is, of course, not good for Ukraine, but I wouldn't say it's a catastrophe because Russia has a problem. It doesn't have enough, doesn't produce enough missiles. So now there's some reports coming in from Kyiv that Russia will be using North Korean missiles. That's possible. But this supplement also has its own problems. It's not very accurate.
Yes.
So that means there will be civilian casualties, but the military significance of such hits are, well, they're marginal.
Sir, the European Union has released another 1.4 billion euros from frozen Russian asset profits. How significant is this support, militarily at least?
Well, Ukraine has been getting money from from Europe, and will get more. That means Ukraine can buy weapons, not just simply receive weapons as grants, but buy them, purchase weapons. They'll be purchasing not only fighter aircraft from F-16s or Mirages, but also Gripens from Sweden. Also, apparently, Ukraine was seeking to buy Israeli anti-missile defense systems, but Israel refused to sell because Israel doesn't want to spoil its rather cordial relations with Moscow. But that gives Ukraine, just simply giving them money, gives them the capability to kind of go around and seek where they can buy things on the market. Also, of course, buying components, building business relationships with different Western companies, producing weapons, partially in Ukraine, partially in European countries. So, but again, this is not a strategic advantage. It's important, but it doesn't give Ukraine victory. The problem with this war is that no one has a decisive advantage, and that's why this war continues already 4.5 years. If someone had advantage, it would have ended earlier. But all sides have problems. Both sides have successes, but also have unsuccesses, and the thing drags on at the same time, escalating.
Yes. But, sir, I need to make this point clear from what you just told me. Has Russia significantly improved its missile capabilities, or is Ukraine facing growing shortages in air defense systems?
The air defense systems are apparently not bad. They have problems with missile defense systems. Yeah, Russia apparently tried its best to increase missile production. Apparently, some success there. But again, not enough to just simply end the war. Russia, in the beginning of this war, hoped it would have total air superiority, like in Syria when it supported the Assad regime, but that didn't happen. And now Russia is supplementing a lack of that it doesn't produce enough ballistic missiles, getting apparently North Korean missiles. But again, that's not enough for victory. It's enough to escalate, but not enough to achieve victory.
And how effective has Ukraine's overall air defense strategy been during recent months?
Well, Ukraine, from the beginning of the war, after the first several weeks, managed to push the Russian Air Force out of Ukrainian airspace. And they have continued to do that. First, it was using vintage Soviet SAM missiles. Then it was different kind of Western missiles made compatible with Soviet vintage systems. They developed their own systems to shoot down drones. So the air defense component is rather robust. Missile defense, well, missile defense may be the best right now in the world is in Israel. But even there, Iranian missiles get through. And Ukrainian missile defense is worse. They rely only on imports. They don't produce their own missile defense systems. and don't get enough because they have to compete right now for interceptors with the Iranian conflict. So yes, they have their serious problems, but Russia has its own problems. It doesn't produce enough missiles, not in the thousands.
Okay, so in this case, could additional Western assistance meaningfully alter the balance on the battlefield?
Again, Western assistance helps Ukraine. Ukraine right now is asking for more, but most likely it won't get that more PAC-3, PAC-2 missiles that are air defense mostly. They can get, but PAC-3 most likely they won't get much, but maybe some. But also Ukraine right now is clamoring for the Americans to allow the use of Starlink in the deep into Russia. Also, Ukraine right now apparently is preparing to use its own ballistic missiles. So the escalation is coming. Ukraine has been hitting Russia mostly by drones. Russia in return hitting mostly by missiles, ballistic missiles and cruise missiles. Now Ukraine is also has developed its own ballistic missiles. So we're looking into a acute escalation of this conflict, widening through the Black Sea, through the war of the cities. It's a very nasty situation. A lot of people killed, and the danger of an uncontrolled escalation is very much there.
And is Russia attempting to increase pressure ahead of any potential diplomatic initiatives, in your own opinion?
Well, Russia says that it's ready to have negotiations, but on Russian terms, which Ukraine knows. Russian terms were announced several years ago. They didn't change. And yes, Russia is hitting Ukraine harder in retaliation for Ukrainian attacks. It's a kind of tit for tat, which basically doesn't shift the overall deadlock, the gridlock of this war.
Well, that was Mr. Pavel Felgenhauer, a Moscow-based defense analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here on Q News and, of course, for your valuable insights. And that was In Focus. My name is Helal Hamalawi. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.